One of the things that really intriguing is that when people have these encounters, it really changes people, because nobody really expects to see a Bigfoot or a Dogman or a Loch Ness Monster, but sometimes somebody does. And it really does impact on their lives. And I do mean their lives, not just a bit of it. To see something which everybody has said, these things aren't real. You know, there's nothing to it at all. It's just jokes and stories, and it's X-Files stuff, you know. And it's not. To see something like a Dogman standing right in front of you, say at midnight, with this creature salivating and staring at you, that must be terrifying for people. And I can easily see how this would destroy people's normal mindset.
I've talked to a few witnesses that were certainly traumatized by these encounters, and in some cases, yes, they did not want to go into the woods or did not want to go alone or stayed out of the woods for years. And I think when a witness does illustrate that emotional reaction, or that they've been traumatized, it kind of supports what they're saying. You know, this isn't something they're just kind of manufacturing or making up. Something happened. They saw something.
Tex, I really appreciate you coming out and talking to us. Your name has come up a lot in our research, and so I wonder if you could talk to us about this phenomena and some of your experiences with it.
Sure, no problem. I appreciate the opportunity. Y'all have to excuse me, because when I start talking about this kind of stuff, the first encounter, I don't care how many times I've told it, it's 80-something degrees and I'm getting goosebumps. The way I grew up, since about the age of 12, I was carrying a gun. And I was hunting and fishing and trapping. When I was 16, I'd been rabbit hunting. And I was coming back home, and I was walking on a white gravel road. And we lived down in the valley. The sun was just dipping below the ridge, but it wasn't below the horizon yet. So there was plenty of daylight. And I'm walking along, and our fence borders the road this way. So I was fixing to jump the fence, take a beeline to the house. This thing comes busting out of the brush on my left-hand side, about 25 feet away. It runs across the road in front of me, and it dove over our 5-strand barbed wire fence, hit the ground, went down to all fours, and disappeared in the long grass. The image that I have froze in my head was when he was mid-stride, turned his head and growled, snarled at me, you know. When he froze, he was in a runner stance. Not when he froze, but that's the image I have in my head. I can draw it and everything. He wasn't woolly, you know. He was more of a slick-haired fella. I remember the hair hanging down off his arms about this far, but you could see the skin underneath. It was kind of thin. And that's how he was, covered. But except when it came to his head. Starting about between his ears at the top of his head, where I wish my hairline still was. And I could only call it a mane. That's what it looked like. And it went down his shoulders and down his back in a V. Okay, now that was what I thought was a mane. He was black with some gray or silver mixed in. But he didn't have that long, narrow wolf snout. It was shorter and blunt. The ears, his were lower on his head, but they were pinned back. Like when an old horse or a dog gets upset, he'll pin his ears back. That's what it was. And he turned his head and he growled at me. You talk about ice water in your veins. I was frozen. I didn't have the wherewithal to even run, And I'm sitting here with rabbits hanging off my belt. I'm like, I'm dead. He just run off. Like I said, dove over the fence, hit all fours, and he was gone. When I got home, I walked in the back door, I walked in the kitchen, and I pretty much just collapsed in a kitchen chair, and I put my gun on the kitchen table. Big no-no in my house. Mama had a rule, no guns in the kitchen. And she goes, oh my God, what's wrong with you? You're white as a ghost. And I tried to tell her, but I could not talk. Now this encounter set me back on my heels for about 6 months. I didn't go anywhere. I didn't want to go anywhere. If I had to go to my sister's house, or if I was over at my sister's house and had to come home after dark, it was at a dead run. If I had to go to the barn, I didn't care what time of day it was, I was loaded for bear. My daddy and my mom was always asking me, what are you doing packing a shotgun to go feed the pigs? Well, you know, snakes. You know, something like that. That went on for about 6 months. So I started going back out again. So there's this area that I used to hunt a lot. I was coming up through the creek and I heard something walking in the brush. At this point, I'm having flashbacks. What am I fixing to run into? I said, look, if you don't say something, I'm gonna shoot. And it stopped. I fired a round off in the air. That may have been a mistake. This thing sounded like a bull coming out through that brush. All hell broke loose. I ain't too proud. I'll tell you right now, old Tex tucked tail and he run. All the way back to the house. I never looked back. If this critter was fixing to get me, I didn't want to know about it.
You regret having the Dogman encounters?
No, but you know, I did for a while, because if you do open your mouth about it, your credibility is shot with a lot of people. But no, not anymore, I don't. This came from a very good friend of mine. He's actually one of our trackers out in the field. He recorded this off his property, and he just had an audio recorder sitting out because they'd had some activity. I honestly do not know what it is. I think they may have a dogman in the area. But anyway, shall we?
Please.
What I haven't determined yet, and I've listened and I've listened and I've listened, between the howls, there's a low, almost sounds like a grunt or a growl under there.
Can you play it one more time for us, please?
It's distinct. You can hear it.
I didn't even pick up on that until you said that, and now it just stands right out.
I could hear it very clearly.
This came from a very good friend of mine. He recorded this off his property. I honestly do not know what it is. I think they may have a dogman in the area. But anyway, shall we?
Please.
It's just starting to get dark, but it's not dark. You can see everything. So we're all starting to weird out because everybody knows about the monster, you know. That door hits that drawer so hard.
The traditional European werewolf was essentially the result of a pact with the devil. It's described as being about 7 feet tall.
Walks on 2 legs. It's more ferocious, more frightening.
Has longer arms, broad shoulders.
So they are getting their food from somewhere.
It was across the fence, 40 yards from me. I mean, that changed me. It changed who I am today. I'm a different person.
The behaviors that are described are still very similar. You still have stories of them standing by the wood line or rising from all fours into a 2-legged stance and then walking away.
He said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to try roping. He took off. I took off.
So it's here when the situation's getting extreme, that's when these helicopters start coming in. You see it, they spin it or try to cover it up. They're keeping quiet about it. 5 people went up missing.